Monday, week 11, IT Essentials. We reviewed these items. We got a test on chapter 7 and 8 on Wednesday. We talked just a little bit of learning at the end, and then we got started. Virtualization and cloud computing. Okay. Talked about mobile devices, smartphones, apps on smartphones, using them as a hotspot. Talked a little bit about, the coming speeds of 5G, Wi-Fi calling, and a MIME. Connecting to devices, Bluetooth, near field communications, a lot of that for retail. We talked about a lot of different options connecting earbuds and so forth. A lot of different things, Bluetooth. Talk a little bit about laptops, touchscreen, digitized. Internet of Things is a lot of things that use, similar technologies to function. And the students comment, they feel fairly familiar with smartphones and laptops just because they've used them so much. All types of computing devices that have some of the same main features. I'm going to jump around here a little bit. We talked about printers, and one key item was total cost of ownership. That's actually takes a little bit of work to figure out, like how much the toner cost and how many pages will it produce. And then somewhere here you have to figure in the time. Is a printer going to last? Probably businesses maybe run printers 3 to 5 years, and then they look at a new one. So if you're using that, well, then maybe you're going to use 5 years to get the total cost of ownership. How much the printer cost and how much toner, ink, and so forth. You have to have an estimate of how many pages you're going to print. So you need time, number of pages per month, estimate that. And you can still, not knowing what you're going to print, some pages use more toner or ink than other pages, but you can get an estimate. And it can be a lot higher than you think. You might buy a $1,000 printer and spend, $20,000 in materials over 5 years. Okay, or maybe you could cut that down to $10,000, depending on what kind of printer, and how much the toner or ink costs. Because ink for inkjet printers that can start to get spendy if you're printing a lot. Okay, so dot matrix, little pins hit ribbon against the paper. Carbon, can make carbon copies for that. Talk about laser and how it functions, inkjet, how it functions, 3D printers. Now I'll also talk about plotters, like plot out big blueprints and so forth. Issues with printing could be the driver, could be giving bad characters, inappropriate paper, needs cleaning, low on toner or ink, their levels could be low. All things that could produce bad printout. And like any troubleshooting, you gotta be willing to search for solutions. And the last thing we talked a little bit about printing from the cloud. Actually, then, we talked about cloud services. We'll get to those in a minute. Virtualization. If you remember, we did a little work processor and memory. Sometimes it's hard, depending on what kind of computing you do, it's hard to keep the processor busy. And so we're wasting a resource. So if we can have enough memory to actually have maybe multiple OSs running in the computer, we can make better use of these resources of memory and even storage. Even making good use here of storage. So we have this idea of virtualization. We can run virtual machines. We can run multiple OSs on our hardware. OS communicates hardware. There's a couple ways to do that. You can have your hardware, you can be running Windows, and then run hypervisor where you're running multiple operating systems with a base operating system already loaded, or the type in which you have the hardware and you run your hypervisor would run in the middle, so it's called bare metal, and then you'd run your operating systems off of that. We looked at SSH, work server 2, we practiced logging in to the work server, last name with a cap, first initial with a cap, and this is the password. And we can talk about, you can change the password. And if you do, you'd have to contact me to get it changed back. We got started looking at running a virtual machine on machines in the lab, and we'll look at that more on Wednesday. And we also ran through software as a service, where in the cloud they offer all your services, your software, your infrastructure, and so forth. Platform as a service, you can run your software on their equipment. Infrastructure as a service, they give you the infrastructure and you can load your own operating system, your own software, and so forth. The idea here, cloud services, is being able to offer these services and pay for just what you use, rather than you owning all this expensive equipment and not making good use of it. We looked at a couple examples. We looked at virtual machines used on campus, actually in our area, like we looked at Active Directory. And then we also looked at AWS, a little bit in the services they supply. That's it.